The sun hung high above the city, pouring golden light over the polished tables of Ravenstone Avenue, where only the wealthiest came to dine. Cars purred softly along the cobblestone street, waiters in crisp white shirts glided by, and the afternoon air carried the scent of fresh basil and warm bread. At one of the outdoor tables sat Alistair Munro, a man whose name echoed through global business circles, a billionaire known for precision, power, and an unshakable belief that nothing in the world could surprise him anymore. But all of that changed the moment a ragged little girl sprinted toward him with fear in her eyes and dirt on her cheeks, her hair messy like she had slept on concrete floors for far too many nights. She raised a trembling hand toward his plate and shouted with all the strength her tiny body had left. And her words sliced through the calm like a blade, "Don't eat that. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Your support keeps stories like this alive." For a moment, nobody moved. The diners stared, forks suspended midair, shocked that a child in torn clothes had invaded this sanctuary of wealth. Alistair looked at her with cold irritation, unsure whether she was begging, confused, or simply desperate. The girl's clothes were ragged, patched with thin burlap, and her feet were bare and scraped as if she had walked miles. Her small frame shook from exhaustion. She looked no older than 9. But it was her eyes, terrified, urgent, pleading, that made even Alistair pause. Still, he was a man trained to distrust chaos, and chaos was exactly what she brought into his perfect afternoon. Her name was Talia, though she had not spoken it yet. And for the past 3 weeks, she had survived by doing things no child should have to do, rummaging through garbage, dodging angry vendors, and hiding from dangerous men who roamed the abandoned warehouses at night. She had nobody. Her mother had vanished 2 nights ago, leaving Talia with nothing but a small cloth bag filled with stale breadcrumbs and the hope that she might find help before it was too late. Just minutes before running toward Alistair, she had been digging through the alley behind the luxurious restaurant, searching for something, anything. That's when she saw a man slip out of the kitchen's back door, glancing around with nervous haste. He pulled a vial from his pocket, emptied its contents into the bowl prepared for the billionaire, and vanished into the bustling street before anyone else noticed. Talia had seen him clearly, a tall, thin man with a scar across his neck and trembling fingers. Something about his eyes told her he wasn't there to cook. He was there to harm. She didn't know who the wealthy man at the table was. She didn't know what that powder was. But she had seen enough cruelty in life to recognize danger. So she ran. She gathered whatever breath she had left and sprinted into the sunlight, dodging servers, shouting out the only words she could think of. And now, standing in front of Alistair, she was shaking, her lungs burning, trying to warn him in her own small, desperate way. Alistair frowned, thinking she might be lying to steal food. The diners murmured, offended by the interruption. A security guard walked briskly toward them, prepared to remove her. But just as he reached out to pull her away, Alistair noticed something odd. Talia wasn't reaching for the food, she was pulling him away from it. There was no begging in her eyes, no greed, no mischief. Only raw fear. He hesitated. And that hesitation saved his life. The head waiter, embarrassed, lifted the plate and sniffed it with a dramatic show of confidence. But within seconds, his expression changed. His eyes watered. His hands shook. He whispered something to a nearby server who immediately rushed inside. The restaurant manager appeared moments later, pale, nervous, and sweating. And finally, the chef himself came running out, shouting for the entire staff to step back. The bowl was whisked away like a ticking bomb. Alistair's heartbeat thundered in his ears. The chef returned, trembling, explaining that the dish had been contaminated with a toxic additive, one that could severely harm or even kill if consumed in the wrong quantity. The billionaire's mind reeled. Alleged threats from corporate rivals were not new to him, but this was different. Cold danger. Hiding in a harmless bowl of salad. And he would have eaten it if not for a barefoot child screaming in broad daylight. Everything slowed. Alistair looked at Talia again, really looked, saw the bruises, the hunger, the exhaustion, the silent hope that maybe, just maybe, someone would believe her. She had risked herself for him. A stranger. A billionaire whose world would never have intersected with hers. He asked her how she knew, and in her trembling words, she explained the alley, the men, the vial. She told him about her mother disappearing. About sleeping on cold concrete. About being chased away wherever she went. She never cried, even though her voice cracked. Life had taught her that tears were useless. Alistair felt something he hadn't felt in years, a tightness in his throat, a sting behind his eyes. He had built empires, yes. But in the process, he had forgotten the weight of being human. The police were called. The kitchen staff identified the intruder as a recently fired worker with a history of violent behavior. Talia had not only saved Alistair, she had exposed a hidden threat that could have endangered many others. The officers were stunned by her courage and gently questioned her. But when they asked where she lived, her reply was quiet, small, heartbreaking, nowhere, since Mama didn't come back. The diners who once stared with annoyance were now whispering in awe. The billionaire stood slowly, removed his coat, and wrapped it around her thin shoulders. It hung on her like a blanket. For the first time since her mother vanished, she felt warmth. He took her to a safe cafe across the street, got her food, real food, warm food, and listened. He listened to every detail she remembered about her mother, about the buildings she had searched, about the last place she saw her. And with a firmness only a man with tremendous resources could possess, he promised one thing, that she would not face this alone anymore. Detectives began a search that same afternoon. And by evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, they found Talia's mother, alive but injured, trapped inside a collapsed storage room where she had fallen 2 nights earlier. She had tried banging the metal door, but no one heard her. She had lost hope. But she hadn't lost her daughter's love. Talia ran into her arms sobbing for the first time in days. Her mother held her like she would never let go again. Alistair stood a few steps away, deeply moved, realizing that sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest courage. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional stories to life. Before we end, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in Alistair's place? And so, under the fading daylight, with sirens slowly quieting and relief washing through the air, a billionaire whose world had been untouchable learned that even the most powerful can be saved by those who seemingly have nothing. And a little girl who had lost almost everything found help, hope, and her mother again, all because she dared to shout the words that changed everything, "Don't eat that."